Good afternoon. Good
Hey!
afternoon. What's up?
What's going on? Just hanging out.
Yeah.
It's the day life military. We're doing army stuff today. As we are all days. We want to tell you a little bit about how we came into this situation.
Where we are.
How we ended up here. Talking to you right now. Where our careers here started.
In a social military cult.
We're going to be doing 12 of these.
Yeah, this is the first of 12. So
next 3 months, I expect to see you here, tuning in, getting the content, loving it, getting in the comments, firing off some comments.
You know, we just said at the same time. This is supposed to kind of just go over our careers here in this army as soldiers from the very beginning, where we started we started at different times. He's been here a year longer than me.
I outrunk her in terms of time served.
Even if I outrunk and runk.
It has to, yeah, that's true.
But yeah, let's just go back to the very beginning. For me, it was the year old time, which we don't actually use pain matrix time anymore. We're on a different calendar, a different time, different days of the week names. But anyways, old time, it was 2018 for me, when I first signed up to be a little technical difficulties there, folks. Sorry.
So why did you choose a military structure? Like, why did you decide to come on board IRL once this thing was a military, the Day Life Army? Because beforehand, it was Temple. There was a cult you could sign up for.
Yeah, to be very clear, I knew about Temple, which was the cult that started before Day Life Army that a lot of Day Life Army's principles are based on. I didn't want to fuck with it before.
Not interested.
As soon as the general was like, this is an army now, and we're going to do some IRL. We're bringing it IRL, and we're taking soldiers on the road. Then I was like, okay, I'm back. I want to do this.
She knew one day she'd be in charge, and she would just have to bide her time.
Yeah, slow process. But yeah, back in 2018, when I was still from afar doing URL soldiership before I had onboarded IRL. Soldierhood, not soldiership.
I don't know.
I was like, yeah, soldierhood, and then I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Is soldiership a real word?
Yeah.
Soldiership?
Yeah, my soldiership, my.
I like yeah. I've never heard that.
I've said that word in conversation. It totally makes sense.
Okay.
But when I was in my URL soldiership, I began following orders. I began living in a military structure, even though it was only living in it from online while I was living my pain matrix life to a certain extent in real life still. So yeah. So
what was the factors in your pain matrix life that made you want to do something so crazy as to join a social military cult run by, a black woman and her white husband?
Thanks for that intro.
Why would you want to do that? That sounds insane.
Well, first of all, the thing that I was searching for before I even met anyone in this army or its leaders was I was searching for a way out of what I had discovered over time was basically a giant scam, conspiracy, crazy world where everything was a lie down to the shape of the earth, the people who ruled us, what we were doing, how we were programmed. I went down all the rabbit holes, and then I was like, what do I do besides rail against this? That seems pointless and a bubble. So then I met these people and I watched their content and I saw their principles, I saw the Army standards, and I was like, okay, this all lines up and is even more than I knew, but it all is like where I want to go towards. And that was enough to be like fucking with them from afar online.
Yeah, what did you think of it from afar? From, you know, when it was just... Because when you were first starting to kind of get involved with DLA, at that point it was like 4 guys and then the generals, but we were like running around, you know, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. What did you think when you first kind of like looked at it as an IRL reality?
Okay, when I saw you and the bros, and I saw everything from afar that was in real life, you guys were living the thing, no matter how crazy or not to standard it was, you were living the thing, and I was like, this is not someone going live from their basement or their YouTube channel. This is like people who have shared principles and they're trying the thing in real life. And it's like, I was to the point, and I won't go into my background more, you can check it out on previous lives, but I had crazy things happen to me and I was ready for something like drastic. I was like,
big change.
I want to do something like big, and nothing seemed bigger than like actually dropping everything and living an entire reality in its like 360 degrees all the time. And that was for me like very appealing, and that's why the structure of an army was very appealing, because you have fellow soldiers, you're like on missions, you have a lot of discipline and structure, and these were all things that I knew I would need to do something incredibly difficult, which was for someone obsessed with appearance and not seeming crazy to the people around me while being crazy, whatever, actually.
Imagine someone who went to SAIC art school being obsessed with appearances.
I know, imagine that artists aren't actually the vanguards of like truth and the next thing, beauty. They're actually just Satanists.
So,
but,
yeah.
So I was like, that was so hard for me. I knew I needed an army. But anyways, like that, let me...
Well, I wanted to ask you, well, before we get into me, because I've got a lot to share, what was the first things that you started doing? Like, okay, so you decided to join...
We got the ops on.
You decided to join this, you know, this cult. You decided to do the crazy thing, made no rational sense. You started doing the thing that, you know, seems crazy.
Your 3 tennis balls.
I got 3 white tennis balls. So,
I have one. Thank you.
So once you actually came and started doing it, what was the first work that you started doing?
Okay, well, the first work I started doing was actually like from afar, following, like General Koa gave me stuff to do from Chicago when I still lived there before I onboarded IRL. And that was like all kinds of orders. But they were not exactly what I expected. Like,
you weren't expecting admin to be one of your...
No, like it was all pretty like quote unquote just like it was like, how do I explain it? It wasn't crazy. Like
normie?
It was normie, but it was normier than the like depraved lifestyle I had been used to or had my friends around me living. Like what I was ordered to like journal daily and to stop doing drugs and to not go out and meet clients for sex work anymore and to like...
What, you were ordered not to do sex work? You were told do not do sex... Really?
Oh, contrary to media opinion.
I read this article that said otherwise, and they were saying that it was all like this giant sex trafficking organization.
No,
is that not true?
The first time in my adult life that I stopped doing sex work was through the orders of Day Life Army. URL, before I came, which I was continually not allowed to do
you
here.
You were doing that before you came to the Army, and then once you got here, you stopped doing it, full stop.
Yes.
That's... okay, wow.
I know, you know? But, what was I saying?
You were talking about the first stuff that you started doing, what they were telling you to do.
So then it was like, you know, don't do drugs, don't do sex work, call these hotels and make sure you can prep a list of places that you can stay at that don't allow pets and don't have crazy scent and have been built in the last 5 years. They're not mold bombs. And that was something I was doing for people IRL. So I was getting connected to kind of what some stuff that was happening or, you know, lifestyle of being IRL. But yeah, it was like things that were also really difficult emotionally, like have a conversation with your... I have like an uncle on my dad's side, 2 uncles on my dad's side who are very wealthy. And my uncle was having like a wealth meeting where he was like deciding the trajectory of his wealth.
Mood.
And I was invited with my family, and it was also like a Memorial Weekend barbecue. It was a multitask. But one of my orders was
just
like...
wasp things.
One of my orders was like, explain, because this was before I was IRL, like explain what you're doing to your family. Ooh, like, oh my God, I was like, I'm going to sound crazy, and ask them to invest in it. So I'm like someone who's never really had a real conversation with this uncle coming in like I was asked to do emotionally difficult things, no matter the result. And that had a lot of results that I didn't expect. But stuff like that, talking to people about what I was doing while just getting to standard in my own life. Washing all the time. Washing in different ways. When I started, I was just financially washing. But some of this emotional work and some of this stuff that was really difficult to stop doing. Because like me, I want to, like overall... Before I onboarded, what I was doing was learning how to stop things and things I did not need to be doing, basically.
Gotcha.
As a white woman, that's kind of our racket, and that's where we come more to standard, is like things we can take out of our life that we're overdoing and being crazy and doing too much with.
Right.
So that was all the URL work. I was like trying to get the place I was living to standard more. I was having difficult conversations with people, honest conversations with people for the first time in my life, really. So a lot was going on, and all of this was done because, like, it made it easier because it was an army. I was a cadet in training, and these were orders. It was like so much. I needed that, you know.
Right.
Drop the ball, bro.
I dropped the ball. What's the symbolism?
So that's like the beginning of my army career here. Career. And while also meeting all these other potential cadets, potential soldiers, and people who already were soldiers like you, who was IRL, talking to me on the phone, you know, giving me orders from afar because you were my commanding officer at that point.
A lot's changed since then.
Yes, you know. Tear.
Wow.
But now, what was going on with you while I was, you know, just dipping my toes into things in Chicago, you know, getting less disgusting? What was going on with you?
Well, I had actually found Temple first back in like 2016. There was an article that said Magic Facebook Sex Cult. And I had found that through a meme like group that I was part of, like an aesthetics group about psyops. And someone had shared this, and I read it. And at this time, I was just like an artist. I was working on my sophomore album. I was, you know, running out of edge. I couldn't figure out where my next edge play was going to be. I was already on drugs. I was already doing like the whole artist thing. And I came across this article about this cult, and I was like, whoa, this is next level. I've never, you know, seen a cult that calls themselves a cult, and one that I can just kind of jump into right now. So at that point, there was a heavy presence on Weird Facebook, which I was part of. So I just went and added the members that I had read about on the cult, and already saw them like following a bunch of mutuals because they were kind of plugged into the weird Facebook world. And I just started interacting on there back when it was Temple. And there was a page called I Hate Temple, and, you know, I started talking to other people who were doing it. You know, I was, you know, trying to kind of like flirt with some of the Temple girls at the time and like Temple women. And, you know, I was just kind of vibing it out, like trying to like get a sense of what was going on.
Way more much more socializing on your part than
there
mine.
was. I remember I tried to get my friend Brint into it, or like I added him to I Hate Temple, and like I had a couple other people who were like my friends at the time, like in IRL, who I was like trying to get into Temple too. I remember one time Brent told me, he had left the Temple group, and I was like, "Why did you leave? Like, what happened?" And he was like, "I just found myself like looking at it over and over again. Whenever I would open up Facebook, it was like the first thing I looked at." And I just like knew that was going towards something that I didn't want to go towards. So that was what Brent did. But I was like into that. And the same was true with me. Whenever I would get on social media, it had basically taken over my whole Facebook algorithm, because it was the one thing I was interested in going on. So at some point, I was vaguely doing Temple, whatever that means, at that point, and then I had signed up and started doing the thing. I maybe made a wash or two, small washes, and then at some point, Boom was a soldier previously known as Boom had been calling me. He was like assigned to call certain people, and I was the person he was assigned to make calls to, and he called me and kind of like let me know this is becoming an army. And I think on one of the calls, like General Wiz grabbed the phone from Boom and just started like going into me, like telling me all the things that were like really stupid about the way I was living my life before I came, and started doing this. I had just like completed a tour, and I was like thinking of moving to LA to like, be like a movie writer and like all
the
this
infamous script
stupid shit that I wanted to do. And he just kind of like just like laid into me, and I didn't do at that point. I didn't do anything, but around that time there was a talk of like Day Life Army starting. So then I moved to LA. I started my real like spiral. Things started to get out of control, and then I ended up finding DLA, and again in like a new light of like this is actually something that I could come and do.
So why when it was a structure of an army, what made you finally do like, I'm gonna do the thing?
Yeah, it was like a thing that I could actually come do. Before, when it was just Temple, it just felt like something I could do like online, but it wasn't pushing me away from my other life. This felt like something that I could do like all the way, and it was a combination of IRL, URL. It's like my internet life would be my real life, like everything would be together, and it could be something that I could actually come and like be committed to. Because I had just done 7 years in the music industry. I tend to run on cycles of 5 to 7 years of doing something and then being over it and wanting to do the next thing. And this was something that was like, all right, like this seems to be the next thing that's happening. So, and I saw like all the guys at that point, they were like living in a mansion in Las Vegas, and it looked lit. And I wanted that to be my life, so I decided to come and
cut to what I was seeing, and I was seeing it once it had devolved into 4 guys like living in a car in Phoenix, and I was like that, and like doing Stranders. But for some reason, I still wanted to come because there was a vibe. You guys looked like you were actually living. You seemed more alive.
And then it was like safe to come once, a couple soldiers bowed out of the competition.
To be clear, once Boom and Tinkerbell left and were kicked out or not allowed to get off suspension, whatever, like then I was like, okay, now
it's safe for a lady.
It's safe for the Duchess to arrive. I was not a Duchess at that point. But so that's when you were like, you saw them, you wanted to go IRL, the army was different because it was IRL and a thing. Like, So what was some of the first orders you were carrying out?
First orders. I think there was like, we were, first things, I was just watching, and I would be on certain calls and being, taking notes on those calls. I was taking notes on other cult calls that I was part of. Like I was,
Did they call themselves cults?
No, they didn't call themselves cults, but we were involved. Like we had, kind of like I was joining calls from this other cult and taking notes and bringing them back to the general, not in like a sneaky spy type of way. Just we were they were authorized to have that information, but I was doing kind of the admin work of collecting the data. I was at the beginning, just doing basic what was I doing at the beginning? I was I was doing, when I was still URL, I was doing classes. The general would do little classes that later she stopped doing and we kind of took over running.
I took one of those. It was on one of those classes you were running.
Yeah, I would do voiceovers for UFED videos. I was recording my voice to do UFED videos and participating in content creation that way. I was making my own kind of memes and just like trying to get, at some point just making memes about the pleasure matrix and putting them out. I like through my own channels. It
social
wasn't like
washing.
just social washing. Just being present and talking about being in a cult and, at the beginning.
You were doing also, like, when I talked about being surprised at kind of like the boring, quote unquote, stuff that I was learning here, like how to actually know what my credit was and what to do with it, how to leverage it, like how to have a conversation adult-like about money with my family.
Oh yeah, I did a lot of customer service type calls. I was talking, we deal with a lot of vendors, at least we did at that point. And, I was talking to a lot of customer service representatives and learning how to, like, the ins and outs of communication in that way. I think that, it's worth more than any communication major that all these people are getting out there in the pay matrix that don't know
three
how to
months
communicate.
in Day Life Army, you would probably learn about as much at 4 years of communications college, whatever they call those.
Degrees,
yeah.
College. Not worth it. You went to college.
I did. I went to all
diploma.
4 years, so I know what it's like to get a degree versus what it's like to do things here. And I'm just going to say it. I actually have a story on this Instagram, like a saved story of kind of my trajectory told through the story of money and numbers with art school, which you should definitely check out. But like, long story short, I didn't learn much of anything at art school in terms of what I wanted or how to prepare me for the life I did want to lead. But I started learning things real fast here, real quick. And it was in an army structure, which is just, it makes things go faster because you're like, do these orders or you're kicked out, or you want to leave. But if you're going to stay, you have to do this thing.
Us being kicked out was not being threatened at any point during this.
It wasn't, but I'm saying, like, if you're in an army structure, you kind of have, at least I did, I kind of had the overarching understanding that, like, if I was going to stop doing orders or not do the thing, it wasn't like college, which in my experience, you could just coast through and not participate in and still graduate pretty easily, though I guess I did go to art school, but it was the number 2 art school in the country.
I got a 1.8 GPA at my school, so,
But, like, you could have done that and also technically probably still graduated.
After 6 years.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, like, the army wasn't like that, and you kind of were more motivated, at least I was, because of that structure. Things were faster for a lot of reasons, but one of them, I think, was because of the structure that it was. Do you know what I'm saying?
I understand.
You feel me?
I feel you so much.
So, what else? That's kind of like most of what episode 1. What episode 1 was supposed to cover, and I loved having this tennis ball with me. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what kind of feedback we get on the tennis balls.
So, until next time, make a wash of belief if you are watching this. Cash.me/washitall, paypal.me/washitall, and DM me if you want to know other ways to wash, other avenues. And we'll see.
Cash is always a great place to start.
It is
Give
really.
it a go.
Unless you're a very specific type of person.
I would love to see some of the viewers on this live right now making a wash, doing the scary thing.
No, journalists are only here to observe objectively.
Right.
That's how they learn.
No participation. No.
Um,
Gonzo journalism is dead, y'all. Or is that what the thing when they actually come and actually do the thing?
I think so.
That's dead. Now you just observe and just cast opinions. Anyway,
next week next strong we'll be back. Episode 2, and
good.
Looking forward to seeing you then.
Ta-ta.